Here we go. Yep, everybody's smiling. Zoom in on Jada. The dogs are waiting to eat food. Okay, so we have everybody here. Yeah, I got you. Okay, so thank you all again for coming back. The last speech of the semester, so I appreciate all of you guys that you helped me out with this semester. So today we're going to be talking about volunteering. So my goal for today is to persuade you to volunteer in your community. So a little bit of background. I am a future educator and I'm an advocate for volunteering in my community, and I also strive to make all communities better. Also, the relevance of this topic, I believe that volunteering is something that people really want to do in today's age because according to Withall in 2018, he did a study saying that people feel like they need a sense of belonging or a sense of neededness, and so I believe that that is really important for me to talk about this subject. And there's also so many organizations out there that need help for volunteers. There's churches that are asking people to serve for Sunday school. There's schools that are asking for paras to come in and work with students. So I feel like this is a really important topic for me to talk about here today. So keeping that in mind, what I want you guys to think about right now is, so instead of writing things down, I want you to think of 3 things that you're good at. So an example would be, for me, I think that I am good at sports. So that would be one for me. So Jet, what could be one thing that you think you're good at? Playing the guitar. Yes, I think you would be very good at playing the guitar. So keeping that in mind, we're going to revisit that topic, or that clip here in a little bit. So right now we're going to talk about a little bit of the importance of volunteering. So in my audience analysis in Harper 2018, it showed me that 50% of you said that volunteering was very important to you. That is something that made me really happy because I'm glad to see that you guys actually care about volunteering and you are really looking to do something better in your community. Also, I think that volunteering is a true test of character. I think that Winston Churchill said it best when he said that you make a life out of what you give, you make a living out of what you get. So that is, or you make a living out of what you get, you make a life out of what you give. So by giving more, you are actually, getting more. Right, man?
That's right.
Thank you. So, with all that being said, there's also studies that show that volunteering and serving actually has to do with lowering your risk of dying. So McDougall and Handy did a study in 2013 showing that people that volunteered in their community or serving for an organization actually had a lower risk of dying. So volunteering isn't just good for your community, it is also good for your health. So now that we know a little bit more about that, let's talk a little bit about the barriers or the hesitations that you guys might have about volunteering. So Elizabeth Andrews said that volunteers don't necessarily have the time, but they have the heart. And Cerebro in 2015 stated that. And I also think that is very true because as a volunteer myself, I feel like I don't have any time, but the thing that I do have is I have a heart for the people that I'm helping serving and for the community that I'm serving in. So that makes it really easy. In my audience analysis, it showed me that the 3 main things that you guys are worried about is a lack of motivation, a lack of time, and a lack of resources. So let's think about that for a second. So a lack of motivation is something that I think is the main barrier based on some other answers that I've gotten from your survey. So what is motivation? What motivates you to play the guitar, Jet? What do you like to do to get motivated to play the guitar? You like to do what? Yeah, you like to listen to music. Who's your favorite band?
Beatles.
The Beatles, exactly. So you really like music and it motivates you to become a better musician, like somebody in the Beatles. Am I right?
Yeah.
Exactly. So somebody like Maddie, who has a huge heart for children and for ministry. So Maddie, what motivates you to serve people in your community?
I want to better the generation to come.
Absolutely, that's awesome. So as you can see, there's all these things that motivate you, and that is completely okay. They should align up with your interests. So Geyser and Okun in 2014 said that the motives actually, or when people's motives pique their interest to something that they like to do, they are more willing to actually go out and serve. So if I know that, so I said sports for my one thing that I think I'm good at. So if I know that sports is something that I care about, why don't I go and help out the Little League baseball team? Or why don't I go and help coach a softball team or something along those lines? It's okay if those two match up. So now that we've talked a little bit about some of those barriers and how we can overcome them, you know, we can go and talk to those neighbors. We can go and talk to people and say, hey, let's have a community cleanup, or hey, let's go help out the local food pantry. It's okay to do that together. So that we've talked a little bit about that now. Let's go into more detail about some of your talents, some of your things that you guys are good at. So, Trista, what is one thing that you said that you were good at?
Math.
Math. Absolutely. Math is awesome. So, right now, let's think of something you care about in your community. So, Maddie, what is one thing you care about in your community? So, like, an example would be like the environment, or a school program, or like a church activity. So, like, how about like an Awana program, right? So, something you said you were good at was you like being with kids, right? So you're hanging out with kids, why don't you go out and you're helping out with the Awana program? Could be one example of that. You agree with that?
That's good.
Yeah, so that'd be one way. Another way would be what, Jet? How could you use your music to do something in your community? You could do what?
I could volunteer for church.
Right, volunteer at the church, playing in the worship band or doing something along those lines. I think that's an absolute great way. And so that's leading into my final point of, so how you can make that happen. So you care about music, you're good at music, so you're using that in your church to serve the community, right?
Yeah.
Which is an awesome way. Maddie, we talked about you using Awana as a program to do that. So it's okay, like what we said, your interest is correlating with your motivation, right? Because we agreed that motivation was the one thing that you guys thought was the biggest barrier.
Amen.
So now that we've talked about all that, let's do a little recap. So we addressed a little bit in the beginning the importance and how it doesn't just affect how volunteering isn't just good for the community, it's also good for your well-being. Then we stepped into a little bit about some of the hesitations that you guys might have, which included a lack of motivation or a lack of knowledge or a lack of the resources. And we addressed all those, and we now have ways to do that. And then finally, we talked a little bit more about your interests and how you can use your interests to go into the community and better serve them. So now that you've done all that, I hope that I was able to persuade you to go out and serve in your community. So is there anything that is unclear or that you would have a question about? So Trista, yes, I agree that there are a lot of people that don't really know where they can serve.
Right.
And so I think that some great feedback would be, so I could show you maybe some other time about where you can get involved in your community, about where you can serve at your local food pantry, or where you can, help out with a library learning program or something along those lines. That would be a great thing.
You can volunteer, give us a speech.
Volunteer. Yeah, I could volunteer, but that is everything I have. So thank you.